Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dave. How are you? Sounds like Dave's still getting up and running with us. So good. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about handling objectives with Coach Dave Pimper. This is going to be a nice, quick webinar. It usually takes about 20 minutes. That's where we get the name 20 for 20. Give you hopefully a couple pieces of insight that maybe you don't have. I know just looking at the group here, I know we've got a pretty wide swath in terms of experience, at least as far as I know. We've got some people that have been with us for a while, some people that are just getting rolling with us right now. And I don't know what level of experience you have in the business necessarily for some of you, but I think you'll find this webinar to be very beneficial. So Dave Pimper, of course, as the president of Lazarus Coaching, got in the business himself in 1981. He's been doing client or producer coaching with us for about 13, 14 years now. So
Longer,
been doing that
longer than that. Yeah, keep going, Steve. Though, how you doing?
Yeah, yeah. I was just
I'm like
getting ready to tell the story.
I'm like the fact checker.
When were we on that? I mean, so Dave and I met. Well, we met before, but we got to talking about coaching on a cruise. One of our top
Well, that
producer.
had to be. Was it 2007?
Yeah, that's probably pretty close.
Yeah.
So is
So
that
go
13,
figure that
15
out.
years ago? Yeah, 15 years ago. That's
Yeah.
not,
Okay. Well.
I
Okay.
was pretty close, man.
Yeah. You wasn't that bad. I thought it might be 16 years, but it's either 2006 or 7. We went on a couple of those cruises with IAMS,
We did.
which is really fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
really fun. I never thought I'd like Alaska, but you guys do it top notch, and that was really nice.
yeah, it was a lot of great stops. Well, and so anyway, Dave and I are sitting on the back of the boat, and he was telling me about what he does, and one of the things he does was do a little bit of coaching for producers. And so I said, hey, Dave, how about you do? So since then, Dave has been doing practice management coaching, Social Security claiming seminars, and informational coaching. He's done seminar coaching on client retiree mistake seminars. And by more recently, I mean the last 4 years, he's been doing coaching on Retirement Boss Radio. And for the past year and a half or so, we've been doing these 20 for 20s that are meant to be just little quick hitters on some ways that you can grow your business. So Dave, I say all this because Dave has a lot of experience in the business, probably 550 seminars under his belt, radio for probably 25 to 30 plus years in some form of radio, and of course practice management, coaching and practice management, like many of you, that's been a big part of a learning curve that Dave has had to go through and try to save many of our producers from some of the travails and pitfalls there. So great to have him on board with us today, and I think you're going to like how he handles client objections. And like I said at the outset, I think you might pick up a nugget or two that could be very beneficial for you. So Dave, I'm going to turn over the screen to you, and I will turn over this webinar to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Steve, and thank you everyone for being with us on this Thursday. Hopefully, a lot of good information you're going to get today. Now, those are short. They're 10. You've heard this before. It's only going to be 10 minutes, but this truly is about a 10 or 12-minute webinar. But it's a quick hitter. Give you some information today on sales process. Okay, and we have those every week. There's a lot of different topics that we go through. But we're going to talk today about handling objections. And I'll tell you right now, there are right ways and wrong ways to handle objections. And most of the time, and think about it, when someone brings up an objection, and let's use it off of the fixed index. Well, you know what? Steve Murray on the line with us today, CEO of IAMS, we were just talking about, and he said, hey, I see he acknowledged, he says, look at Dave, he says, your fixed indexed annuity production is up. And I said, well, Steve, we're just talking about it. Think about this. The market is down 20%. I've been doing this for 41 years. There never has been where the bond market has been down simultaneously 17%. The core bond index is down 17%. Think about that. You have inflation at above 8%. You have caps on fixed index. Like there's a lot of great different ways and different kind of structures, but caps on fixed index. Steve, I mean, I happen to go through a broker dealer, which lessens commission a little bit. But can the regular guy on the street, I think there's 10% caps out there right now, isn't there?
There are 10% caps, and I haven't even told you, Dave, but we're getting ready to introduce a carrier that I have a 13% 1 year point-to-point cap with no fee, probably available at the end of November or at the end of
Yeah,
October, early November here very soon. So
yeah,
it's
and you know what?
incredible.
And again,
Never seen them
I
that
know
high.
this is on I know this is on handling objections. What's the couple reasons? I mean, I understand interest rates have gone up, but they haven't gone up. I mean, a year ago, if we were getting 5%, that was pretty darn good, and all of a sudden we're talking 10, 12, 13. What what causes that?
What's driving that? There really are a couple
Yeah.
of things, but the biggest driver, of course, interest rates are up, and so that causes companies to be able to raise their rates some, and we're seeing some reflection of that in the MIGA rates.
Mhm.
Volatility
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
actually not at a historical high in the S&P. It's kind of high, but it's not at a historical high, so the VIX is down a little bit. So that's good
The
for these
VIX is down probably because it was so extremely high. It's still high,
before.
but
That's right.
not as high as it was
Not
before.
as
Got it. Got it. Got
exactly
it.
right. But I think the
And
biggest
Steve, tell him,
driver of it between, go ahead,
real quick, just tell people the VIX, the volatility index. Why does that make a difference? The reason for that is what on
well, it
fixed
has to do
index.
with why it has to do with how options are priced. So when volatility
There
is
it is. There it is.
high, then the
Mhm.
people that issue the options that drive the marketplace, basically they are concerned, so
Mhm.
they increase the cost of that option. And when the
Mhm.
volatility is lower, then that option price goes down a little bit. So that's happening
Okay.
right now. And really the single biggest driver between you and I, Dave, and a company would never probably come right out and say this, but the biggest driver and a half is companies are anxious for business because if you look at where interest rates have been for the past really 20 years now, it's been difficult for companies. They all work off the spread. What's the spread
Mhm.
between what they pay out and what they can invest at? And that spread has increased even on businesses they sold 8, 10, 12, 15, 17 years ago because of what's happening in the rate environment. So they're anxious to put more business on the books, and that's the other part of it. So they want to do more
Yeah, those
business
are
in a high spread
great things in
environment.
it.
Yep,
You bet. You bet. And I think one thing that I think that's interesting about this too is there is not naming specific firms, but there certainly are some big players on the street that would have capacity issues because there has to be reserves and so forth. And
sure,
there has been some injected capital through ownership and other things that, I mean, one of those firms that they've almost have unlimited actually capacity. And
sure.
so
Hmm.
there's just so much coming on the books. And just let you know if you're waiting a little longer, the reason is because every agent is kind of getting on the bandwagon and helping their clients. So I didn't mean to to have a positive little spiel there for fixed index, but what a time. And coming back on that, there will be objections will come up, and and I'm just bringing this up. One of the big objections is, man, I just don't want to tie my money up for 10 years or 7 years or 14 or whatever long that you do
Hmm.
your fixed index. So let's talk a little bit about that, kind of how to handle that objection. So if you have questions, this is a pretty darn short webinar. If you've got questions, bring them on up and I'll be more than happy. I probably hit the wrong button there, Steve. There we go. Oh, see if I can go
Might have
back.
skipped one. There you go. Yep.
Can you go? There you go. Thank you very much. Okay. So first of all, however you're handling that objection, you need to keep consistent, and that's why I have this gal on a track. I mean, we have a track that we work from of handle objections. If you are one of the better golfers in the world, and whoever that is, DeChambeau or the Tiger Woods of the old, of how great he was. I mean, if he's 100 yards out and no wind, and the pin's on a flat green, I'm going to tell you right now, that guy hits almost the exact same shot over and over and over. He doesn't say, I think I'm going to fade this one. I think I'm going to draw this one. I think I'm going to go and do a bump and run. No, he hits the same shot because it's proven for him. We go next slide. If you're going to run him, Steve. Or do you want me to run him or should I run him?
No, you
There we
got
go.
it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk this. Let's talk about cushioning the objection. So here's what happens is if a person says, gosh, you know what, do you have any questions? You know what? I kind of like it, but boy, I don't like the idea about tying my money up for 7 years or 10 years. I don't like tying my money up for 10 years. The average salesperson, agent, advisor, whatever you want to call us, but we like to sell the product. Oh, that's not that long. I mean, think about 30-year mortgages. Think about a 30-year bond. Think about I've been married 41 years. We're only talking 10 here. You sell, sell, sell. Stop that. Don't do that when you handle objection. What also it does, it seems to go in and it kind of puts their objection. Basically, it kind of pushes it away. It isn't as important. So I call it cushioning the objection. So the main line I like to use is say the client says, "Boy, that just seems like awfully long. 10 years to tie my money up." And this is already you've been through the 10% free withdrawal. You've been through about if there's some kind of already built-in rider for terminal illness or for nursing home care, that kind of thing. You've already been through that, but here it comes up again. I like to say, whatever the objection is, hey, you know what? Thanks for sharing that with me. It's a good point. Well, how does that make that? How does it make that prospect feel? Well, good. I'm glad you brought it up. It's a good point. Makes them feel good. Like, hey, that was worthy. What's the worst thing you could say? Let's say the guy says, "Hey, I got a really stupid question, but boy, I just don't think I want to tie my money up that long." The worst thing you could say then is, "Boy, that was a stupid question." How's that make him feel? Doesn't like you. Why do people do business with us? They like us first. They trust us second. Like builds into trust. The third way down the list is we have a financial strategy that they like. Okay. Otherwise, if you had the best product, you'd have the most production, and that isn't the case. There's some great products out there, Steve. As you know, there's some great products that just don't market themselves correctly, and they're very average on how much money comes in. So we're trying to make those clients feel like they're worthy of that question. So yeah, thanks for sharing that with me. Or you can say, "Hey, that's a great point. Thanks for bringing it up." Or you could say, "Hey, I understand. I understand how you feel. So let's talk about that concern." I mean, any of those. I always say, "Thanks for sharing that with me." That's a good point. So that's called cushioning the objection. That's the first thing that you really, really want to do. Okay. Second thing is narrow down their concern. So when I talk about narrowing down their concern, I normally say, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" Or I'm curious. When you ask a person, "Can I ask you a question?" What's the person normally say? "Yeah, sure you can." They'll say, "No, no questions for me. No." Hey, or "I'm curious." "Hey, I'm curious. What concerns you most about that liquidity?" So instead of you talking over them, talking through them, or just talking, you're throwing the ball in their court and finding out, it's liquidity, or I can't get to my money for 10 years or whatever happens to be. This is why I use this example, because I said to a person years ago, probably 12, 13 years ago, "Hey, I'm curious, what concerns you most about that 7-year surrender?" And they said, "Well, the truth is, my wife and I were," she's right there, "my wife and I were thinking about we might put windows, in our home." And they had $100,000 to invest. And there was 10%. There was 10% on that one the first year. Some there are and some there aren't. But 10% the first year free withdrawal. And I said, "How much do you think those windows will cost?" And he said, "Well, the bid a year ago was $8,300. And I said, so when do you think you'll do it?" "I don't think I'm going to do it for a couple more years, but we might take it from this." Now, you could go and hold that 10 grand out and do 90 grand. It might make a difference if there's a high band, low band. But if they're not going to do it right away, why don't you get that money working for them if they can take the money out anyway? But so what happens is, and then what's interesting is this next one, isolate the objection. I don't always do this, but a lot of times I'll say, I can kind of tell that is your biggest concern, isn't it? I'm only going to say that if I know I got a great answer, great objection handling answer for it. I mean, that is kind of your biggest concern, isn't it? Yes, it really is. I mean, we like what we see. So then you basically, from there, now what you're going to do after you isolate it, you're going to go on in and answer with some kind of story. And I basically, when I was starting in this business in the early 80s, I sold a $58 policy, a $58 door-to-door policy, kind of like combined insurance for all of those old guys out there, and it it covered you if you were in a car, bus, or truck accident, and it covered you. There's a little bit of indemnity death, but there was hospitalization for a while. But for $58, just a teeny little policy, and I would say $58 for only 16 cents a day, or basically a cup of coffee a day. You break it on down. And so what I would do here is I said, let me just give you an idea on the liquidity. Since you got, let's say it's the first year, 10%. In 7 years, you can take out basically 70%. You can take out 10% a year. So that means, and of course, 10%, you're not going to make 10% if it has a 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, with caps at 10, I mean, there are going to be years you can do that now, but normally not. But what happens is you might say, so like if you put in 100, the first year you can take out 10 grand. Whatever the year is next year, let's just say you didn't make any return on that money because the market was down. You can still take out 9,000 the next year. Well, let's go on and figure with the rate of return. You can probably go in and take in 7 years. You could probably take out $50,000 without any penalty. Do you think you would need 40 or 50,000 here in the next 10 years from this strategy? Well, what's the answer? No. If they say yes, shouldn't probably put them in it. But that should have been all found through fact finding. So I'm a big believer that facts tell and stories sell. Emotion is what sells, not facts. In stalls are handled. I handle them virtually the same way. So what happens is they go in and what are the most common stalls? I want to think about it, or I got to talk to my wife about it, or husband, or I want to pray about it. Lots of times, really, what they're saying, I got to pray about it because I don't want to get it and I don't want to hurt your feelings. But I would much rather know now. And I say, there again, I cushion it. Hey, I understand. I understand when people want to do that. Let me ask you this. What's the biggest concern? What's the biggest concern you have? Now, if they won't tell you a concern and they just say, we always sleep on it, they might. I thought I lost one a week ago on a closing, and I handled it. But I asked that question, what's your biggest, what's holding you up? What's your biggest concern? And they just said, we always wait. We always sleep on it. Well, I called him yesterday, and they like the idea. So it isn't that, it doesn't sometimes you're just stymied, but lots of times if they can give you a true, and maybe it comes out and they say, well, we just heard bad things about annuities. Well, now we go right into handling objection again. Hey, I understand. There's a lot of bad annuities out there. There's good ones and bad ones. What concerns you most just with annuities in general? And they might say something like, well, we know it's an income for life, and we don't need an income for life. Well, see, it's a different kind of annuity. It's a different kind of dog. Or they might say, we know that the internal fees can be as high as 4%. Our Edward Jones advisor told us that. We're talking about variable annuities. What's the internal fee with no income rider on a fixed index? Unless you got a fee to buy up the cap or the participation rate. Yeah, it's nothing. It's zero. So you get that on it. Oh, I get it. So then I would say, are you comfortable with that? Then it goes into I have a whole other thing that we're doing so 2020 on trial closes and closes, but it's very much of a process. So do you see, we kind of walk through when you start looking at this, you're going in, you get the objection, you're cushioning it. Thanks for sharing that with me. You narrow it down. Hey, I'm curious. What concerns you most about that? I may be isolated. So that basically your biggest concern, huh? And then I answer with some kind of story. I do that over and over and over. Is it perfect? No, I don't close 100%. If you take your 5 most common objections, which I did at one time on all of the products. So I do a lot of brokerage and securities products too. So, but I work this around the fixed index, but it can work with wealth management and other products. But if you truly go and practice, most of the people in our business, they're not like a professional athlete or professional actor, actresses, a professional musician, a professional singer. They practice and practice and practice. How often do we practice our trade? We normally practice on our prospects. You should practice. And so it's really live. That's why people practice. So when you go live, you can be the best you can. If you start practicing some of those things, I will assure you that your business will be better when it comes to production. Why hire a coach? I mean, this is self-serving, but I can help you. Steve, today I called you today. I mean, I've talked to you more lately than I normally do. I'm concerned about that.
I'm not at all concerned. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, but we got a local person, and it was kind of a little bit of a quandary. I mean, it was just kind of what to do and stuff. But this person, I mean, he really understood. He said we need help on one particular area, which I could certainly help them on. And he said, I know the value, because I was giving him some ideas of what the cost was, and he said, believe me. He said that that's inexpensive to what our outcome could be. So we do like a sales. This is part. I have a sales process that goes through the start of and I do it off of a fixed index, but because that's the product that really that's kind of the product of choice right now, especially with caps the way they are and the principal guarantee. Truly, I just got off the phone with the guy that had 75,000 back on October the 2nd, and he made no money. And in some years, you would think, oh my gosh, they're not happy because they didn't make any money. But the market's down 20% right now, 20%. And he said, Dave, I said, I always say the good news, the bad news. I said, the bad news we didn't make, but he says, in my mind, I just made 20% because I didn't lose it. That's what a guaranteed strategy does. But why hire a coach? Yeah, I do a 3-part sales session that this is covered, but much more in depth than we role play. It's over three sessions for 30 to 45 minutes. You're able to use me then after that for questions. If you've got questions about the business, marketing, about sales process, yeah, it's $600, $200 per session. But it's kind of getting that board of directors on your team. I've been in business for 41 years. Steve doesn't think I've been with IAMS nearly as long as I actually have, but it actually is 17 years. I think I've coached there for 16 years. But what happens is
Seems like only yesterday to me, Dave.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. But it's someone that you can work with. So if you have any interest in that, then certainly let me know. I'll kind of finish it up on this. I think we're going to do a poll real quick. But there's an old saying. It says, procrastination is my sin. It brings me constant sorrow. I really shouldn't practice it. Perhaps I'll stop. Well, you know what? Tomorrow never comes. Procrastinators usually don't make money. I've never had anybody come to me and say, Dave, you just can't believe how much money I've made from procrastinating. No, doesn't happen. People who take action, they are the normally of the successful folks. So if you heard something today, or I really do need to brush up. I need to go. I do a really good job, except for I just don't like my fact finder. You get all that for the sales coaching. So I'll open it up. This actually says in service hardship withdrawal, Steve, but that's okay.
I can't, that's the only poll I had. I said I got to find one that's at least close.
I thought I heard you laugh. Yeah, we do another one on in service. This is on handling objections or just in general sales process. If you'd like to talk to me, we talk 15, 20 minutes, maybe how I can help you. And I'll tell you right now, you think it's the real young people who need coaching? Steve, you know this. Within the IAMS organization, and I'll use Dennis as a great choice, a top producer. He has been for, my gosh, he's been with IAMS almost as long. He's been there probably 30 years, hasn't he? As an IAMS producer?
Since 1990.
Gosh, that's wild.
That's crazy.
And he coaches. He has a coaching group, and he's coached with me several times, on different things. So it isn't just you're just trying to iron sharpens iron. You're just trying to get that. Just just if I could just handle that one objection, maybe that handling of the closing. I mean, what exactly do I say? What about if they close and then I handle objection? I mean, We go through all of that in the sales process. So if you mark yes, Brady will call you. He's got my calendar. We get you on the calendar for 15, 20 minutes and see if we can help your game of production, help that game of sales. And we lastly, most most people don't like to be called a salesperson. I take great pride in being a professional salesperson, helping my client, and I get compensated to do that. And I tell you what, it's not a lost art. I mean, it's a great. I'm 67. I'm still in the business because I like to do that. I get compensated for working professionally, and let me help you do that. So, Steve, I'll turn this over to you and see if we have any questions, and then we'll button this up.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. And just so that you know, whenever Dave said just one more thing or this is the last thing, he's kidding. That's not actually. I will put in a plug. So we've had a number of producers over the past 16 years that Dave has been coaching with us that have worked with him on various levels, whether it's radio or um, seminars, retiree seminars, Social Security seminars, practice management coaching, and every one of them would tell you that there's the benefit of that coaching has paid dividends year over year over year. And Dave is right. I mean, it is a matter of, it's not really, a lot of times think of more of it, less of coaching and more of collaboration and working. Hey, this is what I know works. This is what I know doesn't work. And you're working with somebody that's a really strong professional that prides himself on, being not only a good salesperson, but a good marketer and a good advisor to clientele. That's somebody that can probably help you in your business, just like there's many things that you can do, many things that you could probably coach on. Dave has spent a lot of years perfecting his craft and real benefit to many of our producers over many years. So if there's a way that if there's something about your business, you think, I wonder if Dave could help me improve that, I think that's a good reason just to set up a quick appointment, and I would encourage you to do so. You'll always get a nugget from Dave in a 15-minute conversation. There'll always be a nugget in there that you can use, whether you decide to go ahead with something more formal or not. And if you haven't talked about radio, or if you haven't talked about Social Security seminars, these are things that many of our producers are using very, very specifically to very, very good results over a very long period of time. So those are some things I would ask Dave about if you do sign up for that phone call. We don't have any questions. I think that makes sense to me, because I think when you're talking about handling objections, the only questions we usually get are, well, what do you say about this? What do you say about that? And we just didn't have any of those today. Dave, is there anything that you want to add as we close up today? Anything that jumps to mind before we finish off today?
No, you can. The old adage of KISS, keep it simple. And of course, what's politically correct or not, silly or stupid, but keep it simple. And what happens is through a process, you can keep it simple, but know the process. I mean, if you ask somebody to count to 10, somebody could say 1, 7, 2, 10, 8, 4, 9. Yeah, you're going to eventually get to 10 in a very jumbled way. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because that is the way that we're processed to count to 10 without even thinking about it. Your sales process, your closing, your presentation, your fact finding, it should be a process. Offense, maybe defense wins big games, but the best defense in the world with the worst offense. Well, look at how Iowa's doing this year in football. They have one heck of a defense. They have zero offense. They don't win many games because teams score more. We're on the offense. We know where we're going, what we're doing, the track. We know the route we're running. The quarterback knows exactly when to throw. Yeah. And so when you're on the offense, which we are in the sales process, nothing should be a surprise. And the way I handle objections, when I say, hey, that's a great point, I'm glad you brought that up. They can say the most wild objection I've never heard in my life. I'm going to say exactly the same thing as they would if they said, hey, 10 years seems like a long time to my money to be tied up. I just say, hey, thanks for sharing that with me. I mean, that's a good point. And then, hey, I'm curious, what concerns you most about that? I mean, I say exactly the same thing no matter what they say to me. And then I get them talking about what concerns them most about it. Now I heard, I heard that annuities. I hate annuities. Why? Okay, I listened to Fisher. What's Fisher's first name? I can't remember. What's the
Ken.
Fisher? The wealth
Yeah.
management guy. Is that Fisher? Is it Jim?
No, Ken.
Ken Fisher. Ken Fisher. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Ken Fisher. Yeah, yeah. Ken Fisher says I hate annuities and you should too. Well, why do you hate them? Because Ken Fisher said, no. Well, why do you? Well, I don't know. I just know they're bad. Why are they bad? Well, let's peel the onion down. I heard they're high fees. Well, you're right. Some are. I mean, some dogs aren't friendly. If you own a pit bulldog, that's different than owning a Labrador. I mean, that's what you do. You just kind of walk it on through the process. So I mean, that was a long answer to yourself, Steve. But the process is important. I keep you on a simple process that gives you hopefully great results when it comes to closing that business.
Good stuff as always, Dave. I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule. I know between your appointments from your Social Security seminars and your radio show, I know you're keeping pretty darn busy right now. So I appreciate you taking a little bit more than 20
You bet.
minutes with us here today. Thank you to out in the field for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us. Hopefully you got something that you can use in your business already today. And if you like what you heard today, and if you like the potential that you can see in the results that it might make in your business, you're probably underestimating those, by the way. So if there's a way we can help you, we'd love to. That's what we're about here at IAMS, is trying to find ways to help you grow your business and get it to where you want to be and help you be more efficient so you can reach your goals and spend more time with your family or do whatever it is you want to golf. Who knows? But, you might as well, as much as possible, be as efficient as you can with your time. And whether that means making more sales and making more money or having more time to yourself. And Dave can help with that, and IAMS can help with that. So that's really what we're here for today. If you something that you didn't here today and you think, well, I'd like to learn, I'd like to ask a couple questions, by all means, give us a call here at the office, 800-255-5055. We'd love to help you. Have a great finish to your day. Please, if nothing else, take advantage of the opportunities that the marketplace is giving you today to grow your business. And if there's other things we can do to help you, please give us a call. Again, that's 800-255-5055. Have a great finish to your day. Again, thank you, Dave, for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Bye now.